Been working on my Rosa Parks impression. No. And on that note, time to warm up. There's been a lot of trending topics in the science-based niche as of late. First one being cluster sets. And the first question I've got, could cluster sets be better than straight sets? Everyone needs to sort of change their outlook on these different techniques and training ideologies in terms of one being better than the other, and instead just think both are good. And where one is more applicable for you in your training, apply it there. So with clusters, for example, if you have a day where maybe you're a little short on time, you could employ a cluster method where instead of doing like 2 sets, you would just do 1 cluster set. Take obviously your 45-second rests in between like 2 or 3 reps. Get a few more stimulating reps than you usually would with that load if you were to do a straight set. Straight sets have stood the test of time. We know they work. So do straight sets. And then if you ever have a scenario where you feel like a cluster would benefit you in that moment for that session, go ahead and do that, because both work great for hypertrophy, but it is not a case of one being better than the other. If you are switching all of your straight sets for cluster sets, I would not recommend that. I've spoke about multiple times how motivation and enjoyment plays a massive part in how we perceive effort during our training. And doing cluster sets, doing like these 1 or 2 reps and then 45-second rest, in my opinion, look, some people might enjoy it. I could not at all find that enjoyable. My motivation would be very low doing that, and I feel like my perception of effort, my maximal tolerable perception of effort, would decrease, and therefore that would actually limit my performance. If you are a newbie lifter and you are worrying about, should I be doing clusters, please don't. A lot of the things that like you see spouting now on Instagram, not just the SBL niche, but just fitness in general, man, it's just not worth worrying about. You know when you forget to set up the machine before you put your seatbelt on? To think about it, if I didn't have a seatbelt right now and I was doing this way, and some people obviously do this movement bilaterally, which you're going to be doing much more than your body weight. As soon as you extend the knee, it's like your hips are just basically really like wanting to come up, and you've got to force them down and hold them down, which is going to use up a lot of energy. And you're going to be like fighting for your life to hold yourself down whilst extending the knee. Seatbelt just mitigates that. So now I have less stability demands and I can just fully focus on extending the knee, which is going to be, and again, I forgot to set up the machine before putting my seatbelt on. Nice little rest period now. Remember, like I said in the previous video, unilateral sets, still want to rest for a sufficient period of time, get your breathing back, let your heart rate come down a little, then go into your right leg. Next question is, can you do a lower day vlog? I'll think about it. I might do one. It's not in my plans to release a full lower day vlog, to be honest. So one other person now in the gym other than me, and he's on the one machine I want. First world problems. I'm just going to do this set and then we'll see what happens. Maybe go and ask him how many sets he's got left. If he says 5, hands are being thrown.
Oh, scary. Oh, shiver my timbers. Shut up, man.
Adductors. One thing I'll see people do with these is they'll put the feet on these first, so the foot rests closer to your knee, and they'll come in like this, really, really easy, right, palm and arm, really, really short. And then they'll just load like 5 plates onto a stack onto a gym pin. The easiest way to make this machine heavier is to move your feet to the outer pegs. You end up in that moment on, all of a sudden, this feels a lot harder to move the seat back as well. Remember, feet out the pads, knees nice and low on the pads, hips back and down, and then just focus on bringing those knees together. Holy grail, leg training, squats. Favorite exercise ever, across the board, not just lower down, upper as well. Cannot beat a good set of hack squats in my opinion. So we're gonna use a band, and there's a few reasons for this. One being, like I spoke about before with my knee, that patella tendon tear that I had. Makes sense for me to make that, you know, bottom portion of the movement a little bit easier to get out of there, take a little bit of pressure off, and make this machine more ascending, because obviously I'm doing it for quad focus, and you'll see that with my range of motion as well. Once the knees stop traveling forward, that's when I start my press, because like I say, I want to keep this quad dominant. So watch my range of motion, right? So you'll see quads, knees come forward, knees come forward, knees come forward, there, stop and go. Well, you know, with leg extensions, obviously, I would say that's the best overall movement for development of the quadriceps, because it trains all heads, whereas with hack squat, you know, the rec fem is slightly inhibited. However, you just can't beat a good set of hack squats, man. If someone said to me, you can only pick one quad movement for the rest of your life, I'd just be like, yeah, I'll sacrifice the rec fem. And look, the rec fem will be hit during the hack squat, right? It's not like it's going to be completely switched off. However, the stimulus is going to be nowhere near of what it is during the leg extension. Hack squats, phenomenal. Do not skip your squat patterns. Right, so we've got 4 plates aside on there. Last session, I hit 4 plates aside and a 5, right, for 6. Now, usually I would either do that again this session or make like a small increase in weight. Boring! Because you guys are here with the camera. I'm gonna go for a fat increase and go for a 10 plate aside as well. 4 plates aside and a 5 is a PR for me since my injury. But just wanna you know, push it that little bit further. Ignite the true bro in me, you know. That bro lifter's still there, man. No matter how many studies I read, how much research I do, that bro is still down there deep in my heart. So we've got to bring him out. Whew. This is going to be heavy. I need to go for a piss first, actually. I was listening to some top PLATZ audios.
The only place to go from failure is to win. You have to achieve failure.
Come on.
You have to take it that far. Nobody wants to go that far. It's too scary. But you know something? I got news for you. That's where winning is. It always has been.
Your thighs literally scream for mercy, yet you blaze onward, resolved to create thick striated massiveness, driven by the white-hot desire to stand alone as the world's most massively developed human.
I think I could have had 5. I'll have to watch it back, but I should have gone for a 5th. Tell you what though, 10 kg increase, only 2 reps down from when I had a 5 on each side rather than a 10. I'll take it. I'm just gonna have to stick to this weight now. That mental thing, I just can't regress an exercise, you know? I can't lower the weight. Stupid, but I don't know, it's worked pretty well for me in my experience. 3 reps, 1 ROR. If I don't hit it, everyone I love dies. Let's go. That was actually 1 ROR as well. Remember to put your weights back. If you can lift the weight, you can put it back. Hamstring curl. Again, it's obviously a short and biased movement, so I like to do my shorter movement for the hamstrings first, going into my length and work later on with the SLDL. I'm only going to do 1 set of these, however, I'm going to do it unilaterally. My hamstrings at the moment trump my quads. They're definitely not focused, however, that doesn't mean they don't need work. Focus points is just keeping the hips down, keeping a neutral spine, flexing the knee, of course, pulling yourself down with the handles, making sure that you are fixed to the bench, you're not seeing any hip shifting. Abs. So we're going to do a decline crunch. We're going to walk through how to make sure you're doing your crunch properly, so you can get that killer 8-pack for the summer. When you settle, what you'll see a lot of people do with the ab crunch is, instead of focusing purely on spinal flexion, which is the abs function and something that we really want to prioritize during this movement, what they'll do is they'll do this. So this is all hip flexion, right? This is a sit-up. So this is going to rely and prioritize stimulus more towards the hip flexors. What we want to do is train the abs. So we need to train the abs function, which is spinal flexion. So that's simply when basically you curve the lower back, right? So you'll see the difference when I perform spinal flexion. You can see range of motion is much shorter, but I am essentially just curving that lower back and flexing the spine. Like, this is the difference, right? So hip flexor, crunch, abs, drive the elbows from this position down to the pelvis. I'm curving the spine. Like so. And another one to think of is, imagine your back is glued to the bench, and instead of just like fully ripping it off, right, you want to peel it off slowly from the top to the bottom. So slowly peeling it off from top to bottom, like so. Right, so it's the upper back that's coming off the pad, not the lower back. The lower back stays on, that just curves. It's the upper back that actually comes off the pad, and then, like I say, causes that spinal flexion, causes that curve in the lower back. That is how you know you're training the abs effectively. With the abs, you treat it the same as everything else. Loading it around, I would say, for me, what works best with the abdominals is around the 8 to 10 rep range. And it can be very easy to turn this into a movement where you don't actually perform full spinal flexion and you go from like spinal extension to a neutral spine because loading too much weight too quickly. So we're going to load this up, and I'm going to show you what it's like under load. All right, so SLDLs. Now, I'm not married to the term, whatever you want to call this, right? People talk about the difference between RDLs, SLDLs, and I recently made a post on how to do your SLDL properly. And a lot of people are like, oh, it's not an SLDL because you're not touching the floor and deadlift's in the name. Wait until you find out that Olympic lifters who do the clean and jerk aren't wiping down the barbell while jerking off. I don't care that I'm not actually lifting from the floor. What I focus on is the joint actions I'm performing. Am I fully lengthening the hamstrings? Am I keeping a neutral spine? And if I don't touch the floor, so be it. I definitely think you shouldn't force that and force range of motion just to be able to touch the floor. So you'll see that I'm leading with the hips, right? I'm not just letting my torso drop. I'm actually pushing the hips out actively. Like the first thing you'll see move is the hips. Fully lengthening, negative shin angle, keeping the knees in a fixed position. There we go, fully lengthening hamstrings, neutral spine. Oh, now if I go and touch the floor there, I am gonna have to include a little bit of spinal flexion, shift a bit of tension onto the erectors, which is fine. And it's something that usually I actually do. If my priority was just, purely hamstrings, I wouldn't touch the floor on this because there's really no need to. Like I say, if I'm trying to keep tension on the hamstrings throughout and really prioritize them, once I fully lengthen them, I'll contract. If I don't touch the floor, so be it. It really doesn't matter. You might be someone who has the anatomy, has the hip mobility, to pull from the floor, keep a neutral spine, and maintain full tension on the hamstrings. And if that's you, great, do that. But if it's not, don't force it. I hate the fact that we tell people, oh, that's wrong, you're not doing a stiff leg deadlift wrong because you're not touching the floor. And it's like, well, call it what you want, I don't care. The priority here for me is the hamstrings, and I'm doing the joint actions that I need to do to make them a priority, and following the movement pattern that I should. If I'm not allowed to call this a stiff leg deadlift, I don't know, call it a hinge, a hamstring hinge, I really don't care. And another question I got on the comments was, how do you push the hips back without changing, like you have to change the knee angle to be able to push the hips back? And they were basically saying that pushing the hips back is a RDL cue and not a stiff leg deadlift cue, but it's the same for both. For all hinges, you should lead with the hips. With an RDL, you would keep more of a vertical shin, and as you come down, you would still lead with the hips, but you can see vertical shin, so I'm getting a little slight more knee bend here than I would with an SLDL. You look at the shin angle now. When I lead with the hips, I change the shin angle, I have more of a negative shin, and that allows me to keep a fixed knee whilst pushing the hips back and fully lengthening the hamstrings. How can you improve digestion? The first thing I would focus on, meal timing, spacing them out between like 3 hours, I'd say is a good start point. Eating consistent feedings throughout the day. You don't want to like cram all of your calories, all of your food volume in one meal. It's going to be a lot of digestive stress. I would also consider the environment that you're eating your meals. If you're eating in like a high stress environment, right, where heart rate's up, stress hormones like cortisol have risen, that will affect digestion. So instead of like, you know, just getting your meal at your desk, right, doing loads of work and then like you just shoveling it down like on the side, you're not really focusing on it. What I would do instead is like separate everything. So have like your work, you know, your desk where you work. Obviously for most people that is going to be a bit of a higher stress environment. You know, go down to the kitchen, eat your meal there, like chew your food, like don't shovel it down. I'd say like every mouthful, chew at least 10 to 15 times. You'll get a great jawline from that as well. If you're getting like consistent and good bowel movements, you go into the toilet at the same time every day, digestion's pretty good. Bristol stool chart, if you're somewhere in the middle, you're okay on that range in terms of digestion and bowel movements. So checking your stools is something that I would honestly recommend. Then obviously things like, you know, probiotics. I don't take a probiotic supplement. I just use kimchi, which is basically like fermented cabbage, and that helps with GI health. So I would take one of those, or you could take sauerkraut, sourdough, Greek yogurt. These like fermented foods that can help with your gut. Supplementation is like a last resort. You can take obviously digestive enzymes, but that's it. I wouldn't really dabble into those until you've sorted out the basics, and that's what the majority of good digestion comes from. That's quick fire. So weekly split, currently running upper lower, max fat loss rate. Talked about this in a previous video. Depends on the person and how fat you are. Hip hinge ideal, technique and arching. Oh, here you go. I've just gone through it. So that answers that question. What do you use for tracking your progress and counting your calories? Tracking progress, just use a logbook. Note down your sets, reps, RAR each session. Why the elbow bent on pec deck? Could it be more optimal? For chest stimulus? No. What matters is the level of humeral adduction you're seeing, right? So basically your humerus should go from here, so the elbow out to your side, to your elbow directly in front of you. That's a full repetition. I like to maintain the same elbow angle throughout, so I don't like to change it, as in like, so a lot of people will include more elbow flexion at the bottom of the eccentric, and then as they contract, they'll extend the elbow. Again, I just think that's a press. So what I like to do is just maintain the same elbow angle, whatever feels comfortable for me, and then focus on like really bringing the elbows together, squeezing them together. Can I arch my back on lat pull down, or should my torso be straight? Keep a neutral spine, stack the rib cage above the pelvis. Should be neutral, should be no arching, and then focus on obviously driving the elbows down towards the pelvis. Put most of the pressure into your pinky finger, and you'll be good to go. Abductors. We're going to move the seat up a little bit to keep these hips stable. And you know what? Just to make it interesting for you guys, I'm going to do a cluster set. Right. Press for 45 seconds. Okay. Right. I have completely underestimated how much I could do on this. Right, this is way too light. I'm going to cut my rest times down to 30 seconds because if I keep doing 45, I genuinely might be here all day. 3, 2. Another 30 seconds. Current thoughts, midway through. This is probably the least amount of fun I have ever had in the gym. Not knocking them, work great. Good intensity technique, good time-saving technique as well. If you were to do it in a different way, where you do like Oh, hang on. 4 seconds left. I'll carry on in a second. Yeah, like I say, this load is way too light. I've completely cocked up the load here, but you can do like a time efficient cluster set where, you know, you would do like 5 reps, maybe like 1 or 2 reps away from failure, rest 45 seconds, and then just finish off your set straight away. That way you can get a few more stimulated reps in. I would do that, like if I was on a time limit, and let's say I had to do 2 sets of curls, for example, right? Bicep curls. If I was on a time limit, instead of doing 2 sets of curls, 2 straight sets, I could just do 1 cluster set and then call it a day, go out and do whatever it is I need to do. Shit. One more, I reckon, and then we're done. Those sets were certainly effective. It's not a bad technique. It's just, in my opinion, extremely boring. That's all. Should be it. Oh. Oh, yeah, that'll do. Effective, not bad, but extremely boring. And you know, if you were to do them in that way, with like, are you considering like fatigue management and doing it for that reason as like an intensity technique, then it can get very time consuming, especially if I was to do that for everything. Could you imagine how long I'd be here for? So not bad, but definitely not better than straight sets. Like I've said before, you know, it's not one or the other. Okay, you need to stop thinking like that. You need to stop thinking like there's one or be all method to lifting that's best for everyone. Cluster sets are good. Straight sets are also good. So just do whichever one is more suitable for you in that moment and for that exercise. Both are going to deliver some great results. Both have delivered great results for different people. Do not swap all your straight sets for cluster sets, please. But once you understand them and know where they can be used and where they're applicable, they can be useful for your training. Bit of a change of scenery, and I know what you're thinking, where's the calf training? Well, I did film them, but for some reason, every time I film calves, the footage just gets corrupted, so no idea what's going on there. But other than that, thank you for watching and have a fantastic day.